Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something that, on the surface, might sound like the driest legal reading you can imagine.
It definitely can.
But it's actually fundamental to, well, to everything. Security, wealth, generational stability. We're talking about property ownership.
And we're going deep into the fine print, using sources centered on the Jamaican real estate context to figure out what it really means to own something.
Right. Our mission today is to sort out a technical tangle. We're going to unpack the relationship between two terms that, often get mixed up or even used interchangeably: freehold and fee simple estate.
And understanding the difference is crucial. It's not just academic.
No, not at all. It's the difference between having indefinite rights and having maximum absolute control. So here's the puzzle we're going to solve. Is freehold the same as fee simple? If they both mean it's not a lease, why on earth do we need both terms? Let's figure it out.
What's so interesting to me is that these are ancient legal concepts, but seeing them defined by a source like Jamaica Homes, licensed realtor platform, it grounds the whole discussion. This is an abstract theory.
It's practical.
It's about the real-world nuts and bolts of securing a title in a modern market. It all comes down to distinguishing between, really, duration and power.
Okay, so let's start with the big picture then, the umbrella concept. The freehold estate. What are we talking about here?
At its core, freehold is about one thing: indefinite duration. It's any ownership of land that is not subject to a specific, defined end date.
So its main job is just to stand in contrast to the other big category, the leasehold estate.
Exactly. A leasehold has a clock ticking.
Right, 99 years, 10 years, whatever it is. When that time is up, your rights are up.
And freehold, by its very definition, does not have that ticking clock. The duration is, in theory at least, indefinite.
And that indefinite quality is key. The sources say this ownership lasts for the owner's lifetime or, and this is important, it can be passed on to heirs.
That's the first step. It sets the stage for long-term control, for generational wealth.
But here's where it gets a little tricky, because the term freehold is broad. It's not just one thing. Our sources are very clear that it's an umbrella term, and underneath it you find different types of ownership. Specifically, they mention life estate and, of course, fee simple estate. But if freehold just means indefinite time, why does it matter what type I have? I mean, indefinite is indefinite, right?
That is the perfect question to ask. And the answer is that the difference isn't about the end date, because there isn't one. It's about the power you hold during that time.
Okay.
And maybe more importantly, it's about who gets the land after you're gone.
So let's take that slight detour because I think understanding the life estate really helps define what absolute ownership isn't.
It's the perfect contrast. A life estate is a form of freehold. It's indefinite ownership, but it's tied to the duration of a specific person's life.
So the deed might say, to Jane, for life.
Exactly. We don't know when Jane's life will end, so the duration is indefinite. It fits the freehold definition. But here's the catch.
There's always a catch.
Jane's ownership interest just vanishes when she dies. It terminates automatically. She can't leave it to her kids in her will. She can't sell it in a way that outlasts her own life.
So she has indefinite use, but basically no indefinite transfer rights. It's possession for herself, but not for her family line.
Precisely. And in a context like Jamaica, where real estate is so often the cornerstone of multi-generational security, you can see why a life estate is, well, structurally weak. It meets the indefinite test for freehold, but it completely fails the generational test.
That makes it so much clearer. It shows why the word freehold by itself isn't enough if what you're really after is maximum rights. It perfectly sets the stage for the real prize, the fee simple estate.
Now we're at the top of the mountain. This is what most people mean when they say, I bought my house. The sources all call this the most complete form of freehold estate.
And the language they use is so deliberate. It represents absolute ownership with the most extensive degree of control.
And that extensive control really boils down to a few core powers. You can possess the land, you can use and enjoy the land, and crucially, you have the right to alienate the property.
Alienate? That's a legal term for what? The right to transfer it freely.
Exactly. You can sell it, you can gift it, you can leave it to your heirs. There are no restrictions on transfer.
Yeah.
It's yours to do with as you wish. This is why you often see the phrase, to the owner and their heirs. It signals that permanence.
And what makes it the strongest form of ownership, the one that banks and lenders really care about, is that it's unconditional. It's ownership in perpetuity. It's not tied to a life or some other event. It just is.
And that's not just about feeling secure, it's about finance. If you think about it, a bank is not going to give you a 30-year mortgage on a life estate.
Of course not.
They need to know that their collateral, the property, will still be there in perpetuity if you default. Fee simple is the only title that gives them that security. That's its real-world power.
Okay, so let's circle back and solve the puzzle. We have the broad category, freehold, and the specific, strongest type, fee simple.
And the sources draw a very clean, very clear line between them. The hierarchy is undeniable.
Let's try an analogy to make it stick. Think of freehold as the word rectangle. A rectangle is just a shape with 4 sides and 4 right angles.
Okay, I'm with you.
Now, fee simple is a square. A square is the most perfect, most powerful, most complete form of a rectangle.
I like that. And not all rectangles are squares. You have those long, skinny ones,
Yeah.
which in our analogy would be the life estate.
Exactly. It's still a rectangle, it's still a freehold, but it lacks the perfect, unconditional nature of the square.
So all fee simple estates are freehold, but not all freehold estates are fee simple. That's the takeaway.
That clarity is everything. If I'm looking at a deed and it just says freehold estate, I still have a question. But if it says fee simple estate, the question's gone. I know I have the maximum rights possible.
And anchoring this back in the Jamaican context from our sources, the emphasis on fee simple is so important. In a market where establishing clear, undisputed title is paramount for building wealth, getting that fee simple designation isn't just a preference, it's the goal.
You mentioned that even with fee simple, your rights are still limited by law. The sources talk about the broader public interest. So even with this gold standard title, what are some things you absolutely cannot do?
That's a vital point. Absolute ownership is absolute relative to other forms of ownership. Not absolute in the sense that you're a sovereign king on your land.
Right.
Your rights are always limited by the state's powers. The most common limits are things like zoning restrictions. You own it fee simple, but you can't build a factory in a residential neighborhood.
Makes sense.
Then there's eminent domain. The government can, in fact, take your property for public use, like a highway, as long as they provide just compensation. And, of course, environmental regulations.
Right.
You can't just decide to pollute a river on your land.
So absolute ownership really means maximum control over transfer and duration, but within a societal framework.
Exactly. Knowing the term is half the battle. Knowing its limits completes the picture.
Now, let's just quickly touch on the sources again. This came from guides published by Jamaica Homes, a platform run by licensed realtor associate Dean Jones, which, again, just underscores how practical this all is. This isn't ivory tower stuff, it's market language.
Which is why we have to include the disclaimer that the sources themselves include.
Always.
This information is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not legal advice. It is not financial advice.
Please do not go out and make a massive property decision based on our conversation.
Right. Property law is complex and local. You absolutely must consult a qualified legal professional in your jurisdiction before you do anything.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. The core nugget of knowledge. Freehold is the concept of indefinite ownership. It's not a lease. And fee simple is the absolute best type of freehold, granting maximum control and full transferability. It's the pinnacle.
It is. And we established that fee simple gives you the absolute right to pass the property to your heirs. But, the source materials also hinted at the next step. They had articles on things like, what happens if an owner dies during a sale?
Right. Or, how do I get a title for my house after death?
Precisely. Those questions aren't about if the heir has the right. The fee simple title guarantees that. They're about the process of actually getting the title transferred.
The paperwork, the bureaucracy.
Bureaucracy, probate, taxes, outstanding debts. And that raises a final point for you to think about long after we're done here. If fee simple grants an absolute right of ownership, what are all the potential legal and procedural hurdles that can still stand between that guaranteed right and the actual undisputed legal possession for the heir? That next layer of complexity, that's your next deep dive.
Food for thought. Thank you for diving deep with us.
Farewell.